All right, first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Um, Hopefully, we can all get a lot of information and gain a lot of knowledge from this. Before I get started, wanted to also introduce my cohorts, so to speak. Both Christina Wiley and Sam Snow. Can you guys introduce yourselves real quick, please?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Wadley, Associate Director of Programs here at OCAST. I office out of Tulsa, but I'm happy to visit any of you if you have any questions. Happy to see everyone on.
I'm Sam Snow, Client Services Manager here at OCAST office here in Oklahoma City, and I would be your lead contact for this particular program as well as the system we're going to be soon learning about for the new application process.
Thank you very much. And as I stated, my name is David Walker. I am the Administrative Program Officer here. I'm the newest and latest, greatest member added to the OCAST team, and I'm happy to be here. It's been a blast so far. I'll be starting this webinar off. I'll be giving just a general overview of the innovation and the industry innovation program webinar. If you have any questions, I'm going to ask right now that you can please hold off on any questions you may have. As I go through this, again, I'll be giving just a general overview. Christina and Sam will also join in. They'll be giving more detailed information into what's going on with the program. All right, OCAST. Established in 1987, OCAST was created with the purpose of giving let me go back. OCAST was created with the purpose of using science and technology to advance Oklahoma in both the economy and science and technology. What's the purpose of OCAST? Innovation. We want to use innovation as a tool to enhance the state. How do we do that? Well, it's simple. We do that by increasing research activities. By increasing that, we increase public and private collaborations, leading to innovation. We use innovation leading to businesses. Businesses lead to jobs for Oklahomans, and that leads to money and for the state, essentially. Sam, next slide. All right, the very basics of the innovation program that'll be starting. First of all is funding. Funding is non-dilutive. So anyone who's applying for this program, essentially you maintain full ownership of your company. The state is not looking for equity when it comes to this. Yet it's still state appropriated. Look, we will help and we will give money to where we need to. We're trying to push Oklahoma into the next atmosphere when it comes to progress, when it comes to innovation and technology. How do you get this? Well, it's pretty simple, fairly straightforward. The state is willing to help you with this program as long as you are a state resident. If that business, that company, you must be within the state of Oklahoma. As you can see, 51% of this work must be performed in Oklahoma. That also means you must be required or you must be registered within the state. Otherwise, we can help, but we can't help with this particular program. Sam? All right, we're going to start getting to the nitty-gritty of how to get into the program, how to apply for it. First of all, you need to know it is very competitive. Therefore, it's going to be a first come, first serve process, which means when this thing opens up July 1st, please get it in, get your applications in, be detailed with your application. Help us help you. I cannot stress that enough. enough. Help us help you. This program is going to be open for 30 days or 31 days, excuse me. Get your applications in as soon as possible. Awarding. Look, when it comes to getting awarded these opportunities, it's not going to come from OCAST themselves. We do have a third party representative that will do the awarding. This is going to help us help you by doing that. So if you don't get awarded for whatever reason, it wasn't OCAST. We took ourselves out of it. So look, we're just doing the best we can to get that done. All right, the very basics. Essentially, OCAST is here to put money and diversification into the aerospace by technology and energy diversification. Anyone submitting for this, please fall into one of these categories. Whether you're dealing with agriculture, that's biotechnology. If you're dealing with energy diversification, so that you're talking about if you can help find a new resource, a new way to absorb energy from the sun, a new way to gain energy from any other means, please contact us. It's pretty much straightforward with that. There's not really a whole lot to add with that. Sam? How it works, as I stated, July 1st, this thing is going to start up. This is going to kick off. Please apply. You apply by going through the OCAST website. That will be covered by, I believe, Sam and some later slides, so please be patient on that. July 31st is the cutoff. Once that cutoff begins, there's no additional applications. That'll stay closed all the way through September. Come September or October, just because it says September there doesn't mean it will be September. Come September, between September and October, you should be contacted letting you know you've been approved for the program. That said, when you are approved for the program, that approval you'll be notified via OCAST. We will contact you. You'll be contacted via email. If you have any questions at that time, please feel free. With that said, I believe I will be turning things over to my teammate. Tag, you're in.
Thank you, David. This is Christina. So I will be getting into the nitty-gritty and details about the Industry Innovation Program. Go ahead, next slide, please, Sam. So as mentioned, it opens July 1st, and we did issue the Notice of Funding Opportunity in May. So it is out and it is active. If you have not seen it, it is on our website. It is at the very top of the page. Feel free to go in there and read it and go through all of the rubric and all of that. Everything that we're sharing today is included in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. So as David mentioned, applications open July 1st at midnight, and then they close at 11:59 p.m. on July 31st. The anticipated date for award announcement is September 16th, with a target contract start date of October 1st. However, that is contingent upon board approval. And then there are 3 different statuses: awarded and funded, awarded not funded, and not funded. We'll talk about those a little bit later as well. But notification will come out after that board meeting. They go out very quickly from there, and then you will be contacted. Project awards, they are limited to a maximum of $500,000. You can use that over a period of 1 to 3 years. The minimum on it is $10,000 up to $500,000 per project. And as mentioned as well, it is project-based. So as you're putting together your project, be sure that you have a very clear and tangible start and end. You'll need to show an industry need or solve a business problem. And it is industry-led, so your application must be initiated and input by industry. So you as a company will be doing the application. If you have a partnership with another organization, such as higher education or an engineering firm or a contractor of any type, they cannot be your main project manager. It has to be you with the login to put that in as well. We do encourage collaboration, but just keep that in mind. And of course, we are looking for technically robust applications. We'll ask for forecasted results. So be sure to enter that. It can't be tangibles. Our whole purpose on these awards is commercialization of products, and so getting all the way through that market timeline as best as possible and seeing the viability of it. And then economic impact is our other one. So we are looking for job creation or retention, increased revenue, enhanced capital investment. There is a slide toward the end where I'll go into very specific detail of what that means. We have made that a little bit more broad for our startups and our smaller investors. And so now project information. So these are things that you will build out and you will fill out, and you'll see that in Sam's slides: your project title, your project abstract, the description, your total project budget. So these are all the different categories, your IP status, how much you're requesting from us. You'll want to remember as well, it requires a 1-for-1 match. And so when you're building out your budget, keep in mind what you are inputting and then what the OCAST funds would be matching. This is a reimbursable funding award. I don't know if we've said that yet. So you will be submitting your invoices and then receiving payment back. You'll so keeping that in mind, you'll put in your significance of the project, and that is significance toward your industry, towards your company, towards just whoever it is that it's seeing. You'll have the impact to the state as well. Any preliminary and related work. So that's a spot where you can put if you've already had, say, successful field tests, things like that, or if it's related to another project as a piece of it to help grow it out. That's not a part of this project. You'll also put in your objectives and milestones. Like I said, when you're building out the project, make sure that it's not ambiguous, but that it's very segmented and can be seen from beginning to end by our reviewers. You'll put in your facilities and dedicated equipment. Project team, as mentioned, your principal investigator, they must be employed by your organization and then will be primarily responsible for the project execution. Next slide, Sam. So as mentioned, the matching funds, when you are inputting it, you will break it down by source. And those fields will be in there to help guide you as to how you're breaking it down. This is also, more information is included in the NOFO. So as you're preparing between now and July 1st, you can have a good idea of what that means. Anticipated follow-on funds. So you'll put in your projection. So this is looking at investment dollars or increased market share, the amount of dollars for that. So keep that in mind as you're building it out. Job impact. If it's doing anything to retain existing jobs and creating jobs, you also put that number in there because that's something that we can track how many employees you currently have and then how many you anticipate having within the project. That's also projected and forecast to show the growth and the scalability of your company. Your go-to-market plan. It's a unique value proposition to solve an industry need. So keep that in mind as you're doing it. It is not simply we want to manufacture it to get it out there and to sell it to a client. Like you'll need to explain within your industry, what is it solving? Is it new? How is it going to improve the industry as a whole that you're applying within? Existing sales, your current company size and revenue. So these are really straightforward. Anticipated sales, that'll also be a projected number. And then your indirect impacts, such as patents, trademarks, copyrights, licenses, or royalties. That also applies to this. This is a little more of a detailed spot to put that compared to the previous slide where it mentioned if there's IP. That one's more of a yes, no. Next slide, please. So then in supporting documents, CVs and resumes are required that you attach them. So documentation for all of your team members, contract officials, and principal investigators. So anyone who's working on this project, you'll need to attach that within the supporting documents. And then I'm going to jump ahead slightly. All of these need to be in uncompressed PDF file that is preferred. That is the simplest way to make sure the reviewers have a universal way of viewing every single document. That being said, supporting graphics, works cited, letters of commitment and support, we encourage that you attach them. They are optional. You do not have to. Also within the rubric, the reviewers are not required to review any piece of it except the resumes. However, putting those supporting graphics, we're excited as you tie them back to your project description and your abstract, you can reference them there so they know, oh, this is attached down below. I will go look at it. Like I said, because everyone is submitting different types of applications and that needs to be standardized, that's why they are not required by everyone and they are optional, because some projects may not need works cited. Some may not have supporting graphics, things like that. It is available there for you to attach them. Just remember to please reference it within your description so the reviewers know that it exists. And if they are able, then they can go look at it. Next slide, please. Budget. This should include all of your project-related expenses, both OCAST funds and outside resources, and your matching funds. So this will be your entire budget. Personnel, one thing to remember, this is for W-2 paid directly, full-time and part-time. Contractors and 1099s, they go in a different section. They do not go in your personnel. Professional travel, that is subject to state guidelines. There is a link in the NOFO that explains what those guidelines are and your limitations. Supplies, your consumables, you'll itemize it by category. Equipment is all items over $500 that you'll input there and how that budget works. And then as mentioned, contractual services have their own little category, and that includes your 1099 employees. So I'll reiterate that again. We get asked this every single year, multiple times. Your personnel is W-2 paid directly employees, regardless of amount of time that they're putting in. Contractual services are your 1099 employees. So if they are not W-2, they go in those two separate categories. During the project period, contractors may move up to 10% of their total annual budget. And when I'm saying contractors there, I'm referring to you as the applicant, as the company, because you will be a contractor to OCAST. So you may move up to 10% of your total annual budget between budget categories without requesting OCAST approval. So if things change, you do have that wiggle room. Once over 10%, a formal modification request, you have to submit that to us for review, and then we would come back to you with an approval or denial or additional questions. Next slide, please. Mentioning our evaluation rubric. Once again, this is all in the NOFO. But it is split into two categories, 50-50. That is new this year compared to last year. So if you applied last year, definitely look at these two things. It's more of a combination of two of them were split into two categories, and now they're combined into one. So with this one, the technical merit of the project, it makes up 50%, and you'll do the quality of the project description. Well, you won't. But keep in mind, the reviewers are going to be looking at this rubric and grading each application based on all of these. Quality of the project description, appropriateness of the field to the Oklahoma State Innovation Pipeline. And so that was, I will elaborate on that a bit. That was the industry pillars that David mentioned earlier. So that's going to be, is your project within one of those industries? Is your company within one of those industries? Or is your project an adjacent solution to one of those industries? If it is an adjacent solution, then you're going to want to clearly define how you are helping that industry. And that is, once again, aerospace, autonomous systems, which includes such things as like drones and AI. They fall under that. Biotechnology and life science, ag tech falls under that one as well. And then energy diversification, traditional oil and gas, hydrogen, solar, wind, water, all of those are under energy diversification. Moving on, significance of the research to generate intellectual property. We track that, and on a national level, we report back how many patents are being created and coming out of Oklahoma. We love to know that. We don't own any of that IP as a state, but it shows how the ecosystem is working, how our economy is doing, how good you guys are doing, and it's something that we can report as well. So if it is something that is generating IP, please be sure to mention that, whether it's patent pending or you have a registered patent. If you are working towards a patent, mention that in there. It is of great significance to the state. Let's see, then likelihood the proposed project will be able to solve that identified problem or need. As mentioned earlier, like the appropriateness to the field and will it do what you say it will do? They will look at that. They have subject matter experts where they will review, and it is third party reviewed out of state, double blind. So they will look at it and they have access to a portfolio of subject matter experts across many fields. It's an excellent partnership. If they come across a project that they don't readily have that expert right there, they will go find them in order to be able to review the application in the best way possible. Let's see, degree of technical risk. Is it a project that's never been attempted? And will it face hurdles that OCAST Industry Innovation Funds will help overcome? So is this something that there is this one piece that if you can research it, or if your prototype can be tested a specific way, that is the piece that will then move it forward? If that is the case, put it in there. Another thing to say, you do not have to have every single one of these. If that doesn't apply to you, that's okay. You don't have to come up with a reason to put in there in order to be able to answer that question on it. These are just different pieces that they do look at, because you may not have one piece, but you have another piece. So look at the probability of success of the project. Some of these are obviously very cut and dry, despite what I just said. Probability of success of the project will be looked across the board at 100% of all applicants. Some of the others, if there is less a degree of technical risk, that doesn't harm you. Let's see, adequacy of facilities and equipment. Do you have the capability with where you say you're going to do it to do it? That goes into your competence of your team, organization, and partners. So as you're building the CVs and resumes, please make sure that as you're putting in their information, that you are including the correct people that are going to work on your project, and that you're mentioning their background, their skills, their education, anything like that applies to your project. This is one of those situations that less is not more. You'll want to put in there that you can do what you say you're going to do, and that they have the ability to do it as well. Let's see, commitment of the applicant organization as evidenced by resources dedicated to the project. So I read that one exactly, because that is one that we'll be able to tell by your description if you are able to take it from concept to commercialization, or wherever you are in that pipeline that we look at. Second, 50%. Potential for economic impact in Oklahoma. This is a really broad category. So there's also going to be some that we understand that our inventors are oftentimes at a very different space as far as like job totals, capital expenditure, and such compared to existing businesses. This allows for a breadth of options and definitions to where you can fit in that. And of course, this is one we get a lot of questions on during the phase and while it's open, and happy to answer any of them. Sometimes this category is confusing, or you may have a concern about your own project where it fits. We'll be happy to answer those. This looks for adequacy of matching funding or other project support. Is it going to attract future non-OCAST funding? So are you working with, say, a federal agency for a potential grant, or like an SBIR, stuff like that? Is there a potential that this will help move towards that? Commitment of financial resources from both company and its partners. So does your budget match, not only match the OCAST funds, but match and align with what you are trying to do? If your budget seems by market standards to be much too small compared to the project that you are doing, that will get called out. They'll be like, there's no way they can do all these things with that amount of money. And vice versa. If you're asking for the moon, but you don't need it, they will call that out as well. They'll be like this, they seem to be putting most of their budget into personnel. You'll get comments back like that. And this is where that applies. So really think in terms of course, transparency, but then also what you actually need in both directions. Let's see, degree of interest shown by private sector businesses in Oklahoma as well as outside the state. So this is where those letters of support, in-kind support, and then additional documentation. Maybe you have a market analysis that you've already done. If you have partnership agreements, if you have POs potentially for your product, there's a lot of different things that that can mean. But that one is a really great and important one that I really, it's not required that every single application have that. I highly recommend that you do have that. If you have been, even if you're in more of a development phase, odds are there's a reason you're in that development phase and you have some form of support or interest or partnership opportunity that you've probably already spoken about and may not realize it aligns there. So kind of think through your project like that. And once again, our main goal is to see commerciality of the process of the project, that solution getting out into the economy. See potential for creating jobs that will enhance the technology base in Oklahoma. Proposed projects potential to increase profit, expand market share, and open new markets. So that is kind of the bread and butter of what legislature looks for OCAST to show them what Oklahoma's businesses and inventors are providing to the state. So they are looking at industry identified issues and profit impacts, the potential to disrupt the targeted market. Maybe this is a thing that's completely going to change the way that things are being done in a positive manner. Good product market fit is validated by customers. That goes back to your market analysis, partnership agreements, and that piece. Demonstrated barriers to entry for competition. Right now, that one is very important with the tariff conversation and where the global economy currently sits. So if your project is the result of, say, a reshoring and onshoring or an identified, say, supply chain need within that, and you're solving it with that, that would be a very good thing to describe out. It would fall under that. There may be a barrier to entry, not only for competition, but then also for your customer base. The potential for societal benefit through commercialization under a sustainable business model. Not only does it solve that problem, but it's not going to be a one and done. It's going to be able to continue and be scalable and investable, and your company will grow, or it shows a very clear plan to potentially do an exit, sell a license, any of those things, depending on what your business and product type are. Let's see. National and international growth potential. These next several will be over forecasted amount of time. So this is within 5 years completion. What does that look like? That's another one where the tariff conversation comes in often. What will it look like both nationally and internationally? Let's see, if this OCAST funded project fixes the problem, will this improve efficiency and bring about a disruption to the market? So that goes, some of these are very similar. But this goes back to the point, you may have A, but not B, but C sounds really close to both. So keep that in mind. Potential for leading to a commercially successful product, process, or service within 2 years. And then the same within 5 years. So that goes back to your forecasting. Overall potential for short-term economic impact within 5 years of project completion on the Oklahoma economy. So the important part there is within 5 years of project completion. So if you're working on your prototype and then you're going to be finished, that part will be, here's what it's going to do within 5 years. Overall potential for, I already read that one. Probability that economic benefits resulting from this project will primarily impact Oklahoma. That goes back to 51% of the work has to be done in Oklahoma. You have to be a business registered with Secretary of the State. So within that, we are.
Oh, I think she might have froze up on us.
Remote staff. Oop, I don't know if I cut out or someone else. I'm back. Probability that economic benefit, as I was saying, primarily impacts Oklahoma. That is one of the number one pieces. So if all of your staff is remote and they're not in this state, that may not look as good to the reviewers compared to maybe one of the projects where 100% of the people are in Oklahoma. So keep that in mind when you're doing your staffing lists and what that looks like. Some of it is optics. So maybe also explain they're remote, but they're coming to Oklahoma for X part of the project and pieces like that. Next slide, please, Sam. Oh, I think we're going to you.
Yep.
Before
I'll
I
take
say
over
that,
here. Oh, go ahead.
I have one more thing. Sorry. One thing that I do want to clarify is these are not first come, first serve basis. These are, it does not matter if you apply between. Did I cut out again, Sam?
You did.
See, and I'm on a hard wire line. Okay, it gives me a little phone signal. Okay, so anytime you apply between July 1st and July 31st, your application is considered the same across the board. So if you apply July 1st, that's good. Then you have plenty of time to look at and review it before you hit that hard submit deadline. So I will go on to you, Sam.
All right, we did want to briefly mention, I'm about to go over our new application system, but I did want to bring up the intern partnership. For long-term OCAST followers, you may be aware that we normally open the intern partnership at the exact same time as industry innovation, and it's open perpetually for the entire year. For those of you that follow state politics, there has been quite a bit of up and downs in the legislative session this year. It did look like this program was not going to be funded, and I think we even announced in our partners meeting that we were discontinuing this program. But fortunately, in the 11th hour, we have had this funded. But in addition to it, the governor has expanded internship opportunities to include people in STEM certification programs as well as career techs. So due to the fluctuation in those laws and the statutes going into place November 1, there will be a delay in the internship partnership. I would follow our website and social media for the latest, but the NOFO for that, the Notice of Funding Opportunity for our intern partnership, will be released on our website as soon as it is available, and then it will have a separate opening later in the year. Currently, we're projecting in September, and then as we do normally, that will be open perpetually throughout the year with quarterly closings and open until the funds are exhausted. So if you have any other questions about internship partnership, feel free to shoot me an email directly. But like I said, it's paused until we have more information. So moving into the funding portal. So again, those of you that might be historically familiar with OCAST, we've made a very substantial change this year, and the application process is very different than what you've seen before. We are no longer using the OGX system, and we will be winding that system down next month. So to apply for this, you need to go through our website to find access to the funding portal. So those familiar with our website, it's OCAST.ok.gov or oklahoma.gov/OCAST. And you'll see some changes have been made there over the past couple of months. But right across the bar on the homepage, you can see the funding portal right here. And if you click on the term funding portal, you'll come to this page, which will give you access to that funding portal, as well as some basic information here and some FAQ pages to help walk you through that process. But when you go to that page, you will be required to sign in for a new login. So if you have not signed in before, it will take you to a page that looks like this. Now, if you were previously registered with OGX, you will not have access to this system. You will need to go down here to the bottom and click sign up now. The best improvement, in my opinion, of this new system is that you will not need to wait for approval to get access to the system. Registering here will just take you to another page that will walk you through real basic information. You'll do your email address, create a password, and then just give us your first and last name. And then by clicking that send verification code there, it will immediately send an email to that email address along with the verification code that you'll come back here and put in. And once you've verified your email address and filled out these other 4 boxes, you can click create, and you will instantly create an account and log into our system. Initially, there won't be a lot to see. The page will look like this. This is our application page. You can click on the new application button there, but until July 1, it will take you to a page not found screen and tell you that the OCAST funding period is not currently open. But by clicking on that new application page during the application period, it will immediately start you a new application, which we'll look at in a second. And if at any time it's made of multiple pages, that will save as you move from one page to the next. And once you've saved that first page, your application will then show up on this screen as a record to display. And we'll look at the application status a little bit later, but you'll always be able to come back here for a partially completed application to enter into it again to continue to edit. So once you click on that new application page, you will see a page that looks like this. The current application type will default as industry innovation. That's the only type of application we have so far. So you'll put in your project title right here and then hit next, and that'll officially assign you a project number and begin the application process that you can return to later. Going into the next page, you will see application organization. Now, this is a little bit confusing at first, but it will definitely help for reapplication and readjustment in the future. But you're going to need to put in your application organization again. Now, if you've already long-term been registered with OCAST, some of your information will carry through, but this is very specific to an application. So even though you've registered with us and we may have your company information, it won't auto-populate here initially. You'll need to click on this question mark button right here. And once you click into that, it will open up a separate page that will show all the records that you've previously entered into our application system. If you haven't entered one before, nothing will show here. And right down here at the bottom, you'll click on New to create a new application. And then it will bring up a page that lets you put in the basics of that organization information. Once you've entered this once, it will always show up on that page again. So for multiple applications this period or in the future, you'll always be able to go back and grab those previously entered organizations so that you can go across the board with it. But they will be specific to your login. So if multiple people with the same organization operate separate applications, each one of them will have to enter that information. Once you get to the bottom of this and save it, then you will be able to proofread all of the information down here below. It won't be editable, but you can unselect and reselect applications by just going into this question mark again. Moving on to the next section, it will be very similar for the contract official, but this is a contact as opposed to an organization, and you'll have to go to this same screen to input that record. So you'll have a number of employees that you may have entered. This is, you can see by my testing, I've just entered myself a bunch, but you will add new employees here that will act as your contract official, your fiscal agent, and your principal investigator. But once you've entered it in here one time, if you're a small startup and you're the only employee, once you've entered it once, you'll be able to select those same people as you go through your application. So the next 3 pages will be your contract official, your fiscal agent, and then your principal investigator. Once you're through all those, and you can see on the left-hand side here, my navigation bar showing what stage we're at. These check marks means you hit it and it's been saved in our system. So if you were to return to this application, all of those would be completed. And now we're down here to project information. These unfortunately are not hyperlinks, so you will have to scroll to the bottom of the page and do next and previous if you want to go to any of the previous pages. But this is where the core part of your application is going to go in. So the project title will be auto-populated. At this stage, you can actually see your application ID. If you need to contact any OCAST staff members for reference to an application, it would be important for you to write down this application number so we can go right into the application that you're looking for. Christina covered most of the topic or the fields that are covered in here. So mine's going to be just a quick overview, but the first couple of sections are especially important. The project abstract is sort of like an executive summary. This is limited to 1,000 characters, and this needs to be the brief description for the layman that we most often or most likely will share this with state legislators or outside parties that we're wanting to invite in to understand some of the projects that we are potentially funding. Your project description will be much lengthier than this. This is the full scope of everything that you're intending to do and how you're going to do it. It looks like a very small box and you're not quite sure how that's all going to fit in there. But if you notice right here on the right-hand corner, there's a little tab that looks like this. and you can grab that and drag out that window to be as large as you need to. So you can see the side by side here. The original project description will always show like this, but if you want to pull it out, you can see a much larger project description. Totally fine copying and pasting this. If you write it out in a Word document or some sort of notepad or something to prep it all beforehand, you can have all of that material ready just to copy and paste into these fields. And the limit is quite extensive on it. I don't know the exact character limit, but it's multiple pages long. So this should be more than enough room for you to be able to put in that project info. And that expansion works for any field that you see those little symbol on the bottom right. So some of these could be longer, but you might only be able to view a single line initially. Keep in mind, I don't know if it's been mentioned before, but all projects proposed can be between 1 and 3 year projects. So you need to specifically identify how many years you intend this project to go on right here in this screen. And in this screen, it will also ask for a budget number, how much money you're asking for OCAST, and these will be used to generate additional screens later on in the document. Once you select that there, keep in mind, anytime you see this form cannot be submitted for the following reason up here at the above, that means there's an error in one of the required fields. It's either blank or you've put in a number outside of a range. So you'll need to investigate what specifically went wrong here and make sure that those are corrected before you're moving on. And it will not save any information until you successfully submit each page, and then you get that check mark in the left-hand navigation. In the economic impact, again, I'm not going to go through all the fields that Christina touched on below, but the very top of this is the budget sources of match. Now, this is a generalization. Later on, we're going to get into budget pages where we're putting very specific dollars in, but this is trying to give us a statistical capture of where you anticipate these fundings coming from. So if this is a project that's done jointly with a federal grant, those are the kind of things that we'd want to know. You'd mark those monies into the federal funds column, and then the description immediately to the right could describe how those funds are coming about. We also have a field for other private funding. This is non-governmental funding, might be from a nonprofit or from a other business or a contracting partner that's willing to pay part of this project, and then other public or nonprofit funding. So anything that's not federal, not state level. This could be a local economic development group that's helping fund this project, or any other nonprofits that may be contributing. And then, as Christina alluded to, we are interested in anticipating follow-up funds. So if you have hopes of using our grant to match your application for a future grant, this would be where you would capture that in the 2, 4, and 6 year range, and then just give us a brief description of where you expect that to come from. And then at the very bottom, it says company funding. This is how much the actual company is intending on putting forward to fund this project ourselves. So this is a generalized overestimation. This will not tie to your budget later on, but we do need to capture this for statistical purposes, and we will be coming back in future years with a survey just to see if those anticipated funds happened, or if the project laid out the way you anticipated that it did with where your funding was coming from. Moving on, the upload documents. Christina covered the different types of documents you can upload here. Now, this is much improved from the OGX system, and it's very straightforward, like you would anticipate. Click the add files here on the right, and you can upload pretty much any type of file. We would prefer that all files be in a .pdf format. Do not compress your files. I believe there's either a 50 or 1 gig limit on sizes, but if need be, you can break them up into multiple files. Again, the rubric requires our applicants or our reviewers to look at your CVs and resumes, and that will be required in this section. If that's not uploaded, you will just automatically be scored a 0 on the applicable parts of the rubric. So it's very important that you include that here, but any other documentation that you want will also be included in the same place. There is an opportunity to create folders within this. I would prefer you not use that option, just to eliminate any potential confusion with our reviewers. Just upload the straight documents, preferably in a PDF format. Moving on to, I think I got a duplicate slide there. So budget. Notice here on the left-hand side, it says budget year 1. Even though I might have marked it for 3 years worth of budget, it only goes to year 1 until this one's completed. And then if additional budget years are required, they will generate upon saving this page. Again, this is a little bit different than the previous system in that you're going to have to individually itemize your personnel and then your non-personnel budget items. So in this top section, you're going to click on new to create a new line, and that will bring up a sub page to where you can put the name of your personnel in there, what their title is, project role, as well as how many hours per week you anticipate they're going to be spending on this project specifically. So if it's a CEO of the company, they might only be spending 10 hours a week on this project or a quarter time, whereas if it's a principal investigator, this might be 100% of their time. So you'd put 40 hours or whatever the hour requirement is going to be. You also have to include your OCAST funds as well as how many matching funds. It does not have to be dollar for dollar on every line. So if this person is going to be completely working on this project, but none of the OCAST funds are going to go towards their paycheck, you could put a 0 for OCAST fund and limit them strictly to matching funds, or vice versa. If this position is completely funded by OCAST and no matching funds are coming for this particular line item, you can make up for those later. But once you save that, it'll bring you back to this initial page and create a line item for them. Similarly, on all of those other non-personnel lines, you hit the little drop-down arrow on the right and click edit, and it will bring up this short edit screen. The top auto-populates by what line you've clicked on. So this is other direct costs, and they're itemized. The description section is where you'll specifically itemize what you anticipate this line item to pay for. So all other expenses get put here. If that's a very large item, you want to be sure and get detailed pinpoints in this description to make sure that we know what the funds are going to be used for. And the reviewers will look at that as far as its relevance to the overall project. And then again, you'll put in what portion of these funds are coming from OCAST and which ones are going to be matching, and save that to move on. So once you've gone through year 1 and saved, like I said, it could generate a budget year 2 or a budget year 3 based on what you described in your project information. Those pages are similar to the ones that I just showed you. And then once you walk through all of these, it'll show you a budget summary here. This is very important for you to review this and look, because these are the concrete budget numbers that you're presenting to OCAST. As David mentioned, and as Christina mentioned, this is not necessarily a grant program. You actually become a contractor for the state through a contracted services system, and will be issued a PO. The PO we issue you will be annually, and it will be strictly based on what you've listed here. So this budget year 1 OCAST sum for $50,500, that will be the PO that you're issued. This is especially important because these projects are proposed for the future, but the timeline of those projects can sometimes vary. And since you're under a state contract, we will have a discrete start date and end date to that contract, and all costs and their matching costs need to happen within that time period. You can front load matching costs. So if you spend more on the project than you've requested from OCAST, we can roll those forward, but no funds can be rolled forward from one year to the next. So based on this application here, in that first year, I must have expenses for $101,000 to be able to claim the full amount of $50,500 here for OCAST. As you move into year 2, we will issue a new contract with a new PO and continue on in that process. In some limited cases, it may be possible to expedite funds, but that will be on a case-by-case basis, and you will need to request from OCAST well in advance if it looks like your project is progressing in such a way that you may need that. But in no way is it possible to roll over extended funds to a future PO or contract. There are in the contract, if you're awarded, you can read, there is some contract modification that can be done to give a no-cost extension. But again, that does have its own requirements, and the expenses do have to still happen within that period. So feel free to ask more questions at the contracting period if you're awarded these funds, just to make sure you're online with that. And then officially, this number right here, total OCAST request, this is the number that we will be presenting to the OSTRAD board for approval. This one's asking for $100,000 $1,600. That's a maximum of $500,000 that can be here. So since this is auto calculated based on the 3 budget years, if you're requesting more than $500,000, it won't allow you to submit this last page, and you can't edit it here. So you will need to back up to previous budget years and make adjustments so that you fall within that program specification. So moving on. Finally, this is that application screen that I told you about. So once you have started an application, you will be able to see the application ID here. The application type for all of these will be industry innovation, the project title that you chose, and then it will say in progress as a status. Any application that's in progress has not been submitted. You can click on this drop down arrow on the right to edit and enter into that application again to begin filling that out to completion. And then once you get to that final budget summary page and hit submit, when you come back to this screen, it should say submitted, as you see in these first 2 ones here. If this application period closes July 31st at 11:59 with 59 seconds, any application that's in the in process status will automatically be swapped into application not submitted. And there's nothing we will be able to do after that time period to get that into submitted. So it's very important that you do a submission verification by coming to this screen and making sure that you see submitted presented right there. And then if it's submitted, even if it's July 1 and you haven't submitted, you're good to go. But before July 31st at midnight, you need to get that completely submitted. So I'm going to hand it back off to Christina to just give a quick overview of some of what the best applications would look like.
Thank you, Sam. So going through that, and like it said, I didn't say, Tessa said in the chat, we will be answering questions at the end. So please keep asking them. We will get to them. The best applications, they're clear and concise. So really explain what you are doing in tangible terms. Provide a compelling story about the technology development and the impact it will have in Oklahoma, in addition to the market or industry that you're in. You have to remember the impact to Oklahoma is the economic impact, but then that breaks down into workforce, communities, industry, etc. So really think about the story about your technology development and its impact. Offer a budget justification use of funds that aligns with project tasks and deliverable requirements. So that is what I mentioned earlier about making sure that your funds match and what you're going to do. And then best applications are feasible and believable. Don't promise that you're going to fly to the moon with your thing within 6 months and you just started building it. It's going to be great. That is not feasible or believable. So think about the story as you're putting it in and what stage you're at with your application. And it may be that it's not feasible across a wide or within the time frame to do the whole project. Maybe that looks like a phased approach. Maybe phase 1 is what you can do within that time frame. So think about that if you have a very large project that's going to take potentially greater than the 3 years, etc. Align the project vision and deliverables with the mission of the OCAST program. And that is with driving technology-based economic development within the state, and really showing the intellectual property and the uniqueness of what Oklahoma has to offer and you as an Oklahoma company. And then let's see, details matter, clear versus clever. I like that phrase because you don't necessarily have to put in unless they're incredibly important to it, but it doesn't just need to be full of all the scientific data and features and all the big words and things that it's going to do, but that it's clear. And that goes back to the clear and concise as the reviewers are going through it, so that way they can understand what you're doing. Matching commitments, make sure that your matches are accurate and in there. I will also add something we haven't said yet. State funds cannot match state funds. You say you have an incentive through Department of Commerce. Those funds cannot be used to match Oklahoma, the OCAST funds. That doesn't mean that it's an either or. You can have that. Just remember when you're building your budget that those funds for your match need to be from a different source. And because I know it'll be a question, yes, federal funds can be used to match state funds. So if you've received an SBR grant or anything like that, then yes, those can be matching funds. Benefit to the company and Oklahoma, as mentioned, that has been our theme across everything. You know, how is it helping you in your growth in Oklahoma and the industry, the market, whatever that looks like. Time commitments of project leads. Ooh, go back, Sam. Thank you. Time commitment of project leads, make sure that that is feasible and reasonable. If you are putting that, oh, it's only going to take 5 hours per week for your engineer and this and that, then that will not sound feasible. Salary expectations.